Hi, Patrick here. Have Cheetah Will View. Welcome to the show. Tonight we'll be talking with screenwriter and film director Michael James Minard. He has he is releasing his first feature film. You Should Have Killed Me. That's coming out on Bayview Entertainment. Me and the Cheetah, we watched it. We loved it. It's a funny movie. It's a great movie. It really is. It's a lot of fun. Um, uh, it's full of really memorable characters. It's definitely a throwback to Guy Ritchie and uh, the British gangster movies. A little bit of a Point Blank with Lee Marvin. Maybe a little payback with Mel Gibson. Um, Jason Statham did Parker. You get the vein, the crew betrays one of their own, and he has to go get what's his. It's always a really good storyline to do, and this is a lot of fun. It really is. The story, the plot, for a lot of movies, a lot of times you hear that recycle plot over and over and over. And I get that. I get that. It's hard to come up with 100% original story. It truly is. But but that doesn't mean you stop doing them. You just improve them. You just, hey, I got a twist on it. Why can't I put it in out there? And to me, that's what Michael James Minard did with "You Should Have Killed Me." Was, yes, and you watch it, you're gonna go, oh yeah, you're gonna feel it's like comfort food. It's like sitting down before a nice big bowl of macaroni and cheese with bacon and cheese on top. Yeah, you've had it before, but you haven't had it like this. And so I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I think it's a lot of fun, a lot of memorable characters, a lot of memorable characters. Even Room, and I know a lot of people sit there and say, "Wait a minute, are you advocating a sequel? Because you never do that." Um, yeah, I would. I am. I would love to see a pair of characters in You Should Have Killed Me. I would like to see three characters come back in their own movie. Um, but we'll talk to Michael about that. We'll see if he's if that's crossed his mind or not, because he has made some really great characters, and his casting is really spot on. I don't know a single one of the actors that were in the movie, but I want to after seeing it. And that's really part of a good filmmaker, a good screenwriter, is when they cast the right people in the right roles, you go away and you go like, wow, he was so good in that, or she was excellent in that. What else have they done? And then you go to the movie database page and you start looking for their name, and then you go to the Tubi and sit down a movie on Tubi, and then you get to know who their work. So I'm excited for tonight. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Though I will have to say, I want to respect this. I just heard just not more than like 10 minutes ago, it's probably like most people, that I don't really follow wrestling like I used to. I used to be a slap happy in the for during the Attitude Era. But I do know, I used to watch it with my buddy Catfish. But I do know who Bray Wyatt was, and he was a lot of fun and to watch. And I heard that he unexpectedly passed away today. So Bray Wyatt is gone from this planet. Very, very sad to hear that. He was he he would make even non-wrestling fans stand up and notice him. Um, when you can sit there and you can get people walking by and seeing your interests, where it's nothing but a dark stadium except for everybody's flashlights on their phones, it's really captivating. And more than once, I would hear people say, what's going on? Who is that? Why are people, why are people, why are they just putting their cell phones up like that? He just had a magnetic personality, very memorable character. Uh, hey, Katie. He was a very memorable character, and yeah, he won't soon be forgotten. That's for sure. So Ray Wyatt passed away. Husky Harris, as he first came onto the WWE, he came on tough, the Tough Enough, the wrestler. You want to be a WWE star, and That was his first name. I mean, was Husky Harris. Uh, all right. Well, let's talk about what's coming up on the show. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me strike that back. So, got some great news. Got some great news. So, our guest on Wednesday, or Tuesday, Anna was supposed to be here with us and didn't show up. And unfortunately, no, fortunately, I'm sorry. Fortunately, I did hear from her. She's okay. I told her that we were worried about her. She thought that was really sweet. And and she has some unexpected emergencies come up, and that happens. Anybody who's watched this show more than 10 episodes know that that happens. I don't mind. That happens. Life happens. You gotta take care of it. I don't mind rescheduling someone who needs to do that. Happy to do it. And so we're gonna reschedule Anna for either late September or early October. Whatever she feels comfortable with, but we're gonna get her back on the show. But she is okay, and that's really all I was really concerned about because I hadn't seen her online 30 minutes before she was supposed to come onto the show, and then nothing. And so I was, we're all concerned. Is she okay? And she is. She reached out this afternoon and said that she is fine, that she had something to come up, and she was really sorry about not communicating that, but it's all right. Oh, okay. So the calendar. Okay, let's hit that old calendar because um, I don't know if you guys watched the show yesterday or not. We had Joe Cornette and Alexander Nevsky on last night. Wow, I had so much fun with that show yesterday. Holy cow, that was that just I just love the passion of those two gentlemen, Joe and Alexander. I mean, wow, like I said, what a dynamic duo, powerhouse duo. They love making movies. They love working together. They're true brothers in every sense of the word. Um, and they both came on here yesterday, and we had a great time talking about Night of the Caregiver. Um, as anybody who wants to listen to the replay, as you can tell, Alexander has just just full of passion for this project. He was very excited for the movie. Uh, of course, their dynamic casting and tight crew that they have between their two production companies really works well for them. San Rafael Productions and Hollywood Storm Productions. They teamed up to do movies together, get them to the screen. Um, so I had a ball last night, and I really do recommend you guys take a listen to that show. It only runs for like an hour, so it's a quick listen, that's for sure. But I sure encourage you to listen to it and hear that passion that I wish more filmmakers would have that. I mean, not that I say we don't get those here. We don't. We do get a lot. We do get a lot of passionate people on here. We do. Um, but I don't know. I don't know if I've ever had someone as jacked as Alexander Nevsky was for his movie. I don't think I have. Of course, Chadwick, who just walked in through the door, he might be sitting there going like, "Hold my beer." I'm very excited about Malcolm, so you could just sit your ass down, Patrick, when you come down. If you're gonna say that. But I think Chadwick will get what I'm saying. When I was talking about Alexander, I mean, you see him, and he's just like he's rocking and rolling. He so wholeheartedly believes in Joe and him are doing, and Joe's right behind there. And I really enjoyed it last night. And again, I'm going to give a shout out to their publicist Rachel for helping me get that show yesterday, and I'm looking forward to having them come back. Me and Joe talked afterwards, and we definitely want to come back. We want to have Joe come back because he loves westerns, and I do too. And we want to have him come back, and him and I are going to talk some western movies. Um, so I'm looking forward to that. That'll probably be happening sometime in January. So yes, yes. All right. So today, as Michael James Minard. He will be here. And then tomorrow, we threw together something fun and fast and furious for you guys tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Our good friend Bobby Lapierre will be with us from Film Threat Magazine. And he and I are going to be talking superhero rankings. That's right. We're going to rank films. Um, I don't know how we're going to do that. I think we're going to split it up into two. I think we're going to do one, maybe DC first and then Marvel second. And oh, hold on, the doorbell rang. So that means our guest is here. So thank you for coming in. Those who are here, feel free to share us out, and we're going to get this ball rolling a little bit early. And help me please welcome in film director and screenwriter Michael James Minard.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me all right?
I hear you perfectly. I just want to try this line out and tell me how you think I did. Give me notes or give me, give him, see if I had the right motivation. You don't have to be crass.
Well, to be honest with you, if I think I know where you're coming from, that was actually said by Rob Merritt, who plays a character in my film. And here's what I actually found out about that film, or that line. That was actually improv by him. It wasn't in the script. And what I thought was really funny is I showed that scene to a really good friend of mine who is an English major. And he started laughing hysterically when Rob said that line. And I was like, what's so funny? And he's like, I don't think he knows what crass thinks it means. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, crass doesn't mean someone who's being angry or like unwilling to cooperate or whatever the term may be. He goes, it actually means someone who's being stupid and doesn't know they're being stupid. So then it made me laugh because I was like, holy shit, Rob totally said that line and didn't realize that he was being dumb in the moment and said something that didn't make sense. But I liked it, and so I kept it in.
I'm so glad you're here. This movie, wow, you really did a nice job here. This is a funny ass movie. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. It must have been a ball to. It must have been so much fun to make, and I guess because I was watching it and I watched it twice, and I was looking for things I didn't see the first time through. It's just a lot of the one line that made me laugh my ass off was when and I don't know if these are all improv or not, but when Monty's in the house talking to Ducky and he wants to know where Sully's at, and he says, yeah, he's over at Raymond's, and then the other one says, yeah, everybody loves Raymond. I had me laughing. I was like, that's an improv, or was that from your pen?
Unfortunately, I can't take credit for that line either. That was something so Bryce, who plays Kevin, who said the line, and then Dylan, who plays Ducky, who's the other stoner character, and then Monty, who's the lead character, or Damien, who plays Monty, the lead character. They were kind of rehearsing lines while we were getting set up, setting up lights, cameras, things like that, going over blocking and stuff. And they sat outside and just ran through their lines. And that was an idea that Bryce had, who plays Kevin, was like, hey, I'm really feeling this line kind of right here. And I was like, yeah, it's great. Like, I like it. And it tends to be the fan favorite of, Ducky and Kevin, the two stoner characters, tend to be the fan favorite of many people who see the film. But yeah, it was one of those lines that just was unscripted that worked. And yeah, we've generally gotten a lot of laughs out of that in the theater. So
that's funny you say that about the two stoners, because that was actually my point. Mine was the three. Mine was was Kevin and Ducky, and then G's. I thought, wow, those three characters are they need to come back. We want, yeah, they need to have their own movie.
Yeah,
Maybe do it in
that'll make Rob happy because it's actually Jeeves is an interesting character in itself. So the guy who played Raymond, his name is Patrick, such as yourself, and he was initially casted as Jeeves. I always pictured Jeeves to be this older English gentleman, in his 70s, 80s, somewhere in there. And the initial guy, or the initial actor, I should say, that was supposed to play Raymond, um, ended up having to get this is okay. And by far, before I explain this, um, this is the best excuse in order to have to drop out of a role. He had to get one of his legs amputated,
oh,
so had a solid excuse to have to opt out of the project. But in my bind of trying to find someone to play Raymond, during the table read, Patrick had really impressed me. And I said, hey, would you mind stepping up and filling Raymond's shoes? He agreed. And then when it came time to fill Jeeves' shoes, he's played by Rob Merritt. And I reached out to Rob because Rob was one of the lead characters in my first ever short films that I did out of film school. And I knew he could pull it off. And he was basically cast like 2 weeks before we started shooting. So that'll make Rob happy that someone thought he was a memorable character, because his whole standpoint as of right now has been like, well, I'm not really a central character. So,
I disagree.
yeah.
I thought he was a very important character, and I really enjoyed his performance.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, everybody in that movie had memorable performance. It's sort of weird. It's the movie was so lighthearted and fun,
Mhm.
and it's sort of weird to say this, but it was so frenetic and everything else, that when without giving anything too much away, but during the final scene where things, they all meet in the garage, and not everybody's going to all walk out. I was sort of bummed. I was sort of hoping they all would walk out, bickering and fighting like a family, but still all walking out, because I actually liked all the characters,
Mhm.
even the ones that we're supposed to be rooting and hissing for. But you had a couple of scenes with him where he saw the other side of who he was, and he really, even though he did a despicable thing, um, he didn't really come across as being a really all that bad guy. Like, yeah, he's an asshole, but you know, he's not too. I don't know. That's just me. I enjoyed all the characters that much. I know that. So I know to move the story, you had to color the water a little bit to make it a little bit darker. And yes, it worked. It had to. You had to do it. So I understand that. But still, it wasn't the all your characters were really memorable, and that's really hard to do, Michael.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do with a independent film with a relatively unknown cast, but you
Mhm.
made them all jump out.
Yeah. I got lucky in that aspect of casting. So for those of you who don't know, like the production took place in Iowa, which usually, most people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, it's one of those flyover states. We usually get confused with like Idaho and potatoes and, whatever else we have to be like, no, we're the corn state, or, whatever. So you would think that there's not much of a talent pool of any kind in here.
There's a lot of talent in Iowa.
But the Iowa talent pool is insane. Every single person that was a part of this film, cast and crew, are all from Iowa. Um, Obviously, myself included. But yeah, like it was a state collaborative effort to make this happen. Um, and I guess to kind of go into it, how this all started was, I actually have another feature length film written already. And so I'm gonna confuse you a little bit, Patrick, when I say this, but I had a feature length film written that I wrote in 2020, which I knew I needed a little bit more experience in order for me to feel confident in order to tackle something of that magnitude. So I wrote a short, it was supposed to be like a 20 to 35-minute short film called The Dead Man Walking.
Oh,
And The Dead Man Walking, when my cast and crew read it, they were like, this is good enough that you just need to make this into a feature length film. They were like, screw making a proof of concept, let's just go all in, let's make this happen. So The Dead Man Walking was The Dead Man Walking up until Bayview Entertainment picked it up. And then to avoid confusion with Dead Man Walking, a very popular Sean Penn movie, they asked me to change the name, and thus that's how You Should Have Killed Me was born. But this whole film started as a proof of concept for a completely different script, which I still have sitting around to prove to myself that I could accomplish something like that. Because up to that point, I had really only made like 7 or 8 short films, the longest one being around 40 minutes. So I didn't even know if I was even experienced enough to tackle a whole feature-length film. And You Should Have Killed Me started out tentatively as The Dead Man Walking. Once Bayview picked it up, we changed it to You Should Have Killed Me. And so far I'm quite happy, at least with the people who have seen it. Their feedback has been great. I still have that feature-length film sitting on the office desk. So hopefully at some point we can maybe even get to that project and continue on from where this project was originally supposed to go. So,
we have another filmmaker in the chat, Chadwick Whitmer. He says, oh my God, I completely understand. He shot a series of shorts, and then a series of shorts, and then he turned around and he took his shorts and he came around and he made his first feature film as well. He took the idea and made it into a feature length. So I can see that too, Chadwick, how that worked out. Iowa has a lot of talent. I interviewed a gentleman, you might know his name, named Tim Connery.
I actually don't. I don't know Tim Connery's name.
Uh,
I'll have to look into it. That'll be interesting.
he made a film called Death to Metal, and it was the four corners of Iowa, like the beat, and there's a three other cities that are all together. And he says, there's a lot of talent there, and there really is. There's it's just people just don't know about it. You don't really think of, when you think of like making a movie or casting it or on location, Iowa's not really the first thing that jumps out of your mind. So when people see a movie like this and they find out that it was filmed in Iowa, it helps. I think it helps the movie.
Yeah.
People,
Like I said, we have famous names out of Iowa. I'm not saying, no one from Iowa has done great things. The two screenplay writers that basically wrote A Quiet Place are from Iowa. Ashton Kutcher is from Iowa. Elijah Wood's from Iowa. I mean, we have big names that come out of Iowa, but when you think of, big productions in Iowa, it's not necessarily something that you think about. Even that movie, The Crazies, that takes place in Iowa was never actually shot in Iowa. I think there might have been parts of Twister that were shot in Iowa, but other than that, we haven't had really any big productions since really The Field of Dreams in the 90s was really the last big production to be fully shot in Iowa.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm trying to rack my head right now, and I can't think of anything else where it's been based there.
Jason Momoa is also from Iowa, so
yeah. That's right. That's right. He was born. I'm not sure how long. I mean, they might. I think all these folks you mentioned, I think they all stayed long enough to cut their teeth, and then they, but you still could claim them. It's like Iowa, and you know what?
Yeah.
People get
And I
inspired by
almost,
them.
I almost forgot about the biggest name from Iowa, which is the Duke. John Wayne is from Winterset, Iowa.
Oh, that's right. What was his name? His regular name?
His real name is
Marion
Marion.
Morrison. Yeah, Marion Morrison or something like that.
Mhm.
Before he became the Duke. Uh, let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, that's all around good movie history here. Yeah, that is. There's a lot of people from Iowa.
Mhm.
Um, Now, before we get more into You Should Have Killed Me, I want to go back to your beginnings. I noticed that you were born and raised in Iowa,
Mhm.
and what was it like? What was it like being a growing youth in Iowa? What was it like growing up in your town?
I mean, it's going to make me sound kind of dated a little bit. I mean, I am 33, but I mean, my childhood was very much like what you can consider like a Gen X childhood, even though technically I'm millennials. A lot of times spent outside, playing army with your friends. I mean, I grew up in a small town of only 857 people. And so, yeah, just a lot of time outside riding bikes, just kind of exploring, making forts in the woods, whatever it may be. So that was kind of my childhood. I mean, even dial up internet, which a lot of youth nowadays don't even really know the issues with dial up. And I mean, even just to look at just to download a picture, it took, 45 minutes to do it. And then when it was almost done, your dad would get on a phone to make a phone call and you get disconnected because you couldn't run the phone and the dial up at the same time. So, yeah, we just spent a lot of time outside playing, sports, athletics, being adventurous, that kind of stuff.
You get a kick or a chuckle out of somebody who's sit there saying, "Yeah, you get an email," and someone will give you an email has AOL on it. It's like,
Yeah.
really? You know, that's
Yeah.
almost like a that's almost like a it's almost like the American Picker Show when they drive around middle America.
Hey,
I keep
those
on
guys are also from Iowa.
Frank and Mike. Oh,
Mhm.
really?
Yeah.
Well, and we're picking up all the Iowa game today. Um, they drive around and they go inside someone's house and there's a stack of those discs that they used to give out for free at 7-Eleven. Those AOL discs.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna bundle those together and sell them. Um, yes, yes, dial up is old school these days. Hardly anyone uses landlines now. No, they really don't. They
Yeah.
really don't. You rarely ever see that.
And see, what's funny is I still remember my house growing up telephone number. I still remember it. All of the friends I had in town that I would play with or call to, hey, you want to ride bikes or come over or whatever it may be. I have all of my friends' childhood house phone numbers remembered until the day I died.
Wow.
Yeah, different world. I still remember when phones were on the wall. I still
Yeah.
remember rotary phones. Yeah, it's just
Yeah. Yeah, I remember all that too. I'm old. I'm older than you, way older. I
yeah.
remember all that. I do remember the when
I
the
know that
AOL was.
I know the video is not very clear for those of you who are watching. And Patrick and I do look very similar. We're both good-looking guys, but Patrick definitely is slightly older than I am.
Slightly older, slightly he says. Uh, so what was your first creative outlet? Growing up there. I mean, you doing the bikes, building the forts, but were you like a reader first? Did you write first? I mean, what kind of things got your creative juices going in a small town like that?
Um, to be honest with you, I don't read books. Never really have been a big book reader. It's something, honestly, I personally like to get better at, but I just haven't. I don't know. There's just something about books that bored the shit out of me. My vision starts going blurry, and before you know it, I'm waking up 4 hours later, and I'm only like a page where I started. And then, as far as like writing, I never considered myself a writer in high school. I had a couple of like English teachers and um, different writing teachers in high school that told me that like I was pretty good. But it would be kind of funny because if you asked me to write something narrative and structure, I would get an A on it. But then if you asked me to write something that actually had to follow a certain set of rules, I would get like a D on it. So I've always been like more of a narrative writer, but really, over the course of my film career, when I get asked that question, like, did you always know you wanted to be a filmmaker? Is that something that was always important to you? Really, no. But when I think back about it, and I think back about my youth, yes, definitely. I was that guy that, would take G.I. Joes and would act out movie scenes, or, even playing Army with my friends. You have those childhood imaginations of you and your buddies running through the woods, with Viet Cong behind you and firing at you and bullets flying by. And so I always had like a pretty active imagination. But really where the filmmaking career began was because I'm a musician. I was actually signed to my first record label at the age of 19. And I played in a metal band, doing vocals. So I like to tell my kids, because my wife is an excellent vocalist, they always want me to sing. And I'm like, well, Daddy can't sing. Mama sings. And then all of them kind of give me a confused look, because I'm the one that plays guitar and has a recording studio upstairs and everything else. And I'm like, Daddy can scream. Daddy can scream his ass off, but he can't sing. He can't hold a note. But where the filmmaking kind of began is really just out of necessity at the time of being a musician. So when I started playing music, I wanted to learn how to be in a band. So I taught myself how to play guitar. And a lot of the bands early on that I was in would play music that I had written, and that I was finally able to do the job of being a vocalist that I wanted to do. So you fast forward and you're like, well, now I have this band and we write our own songs, and now I want to learn how to record songs. So that I went to the school, the first time I went to college, I went to the Institute of Production and Recording in Minneapolis to learn how to record. So then I learned how to record said songs. And then it was like, well, now I have this album and I need artwork for the album. So then I taught myself how to do visual design and things like that. So then it's like, well, now I have this album and I have album artwork, but now I want to promote it with a music video. And then it was like, we didn't have any money. So it was like, well, I'm just going to learn how to make my own music videos. And then after doing several music videos, along with a hiatus in there from my military career, it turned from like, I don't want to make music videos anymore. I want to make movies. So then using my GI Bill, when I got out of the military, I actually went to film school, and the rest has just kind of been history. But the necessity for videography work, and then obviously the passion for filmmaking kind of stemmed from playing music in like a metal band. So
let me ask you a couple of questions about your military.
I was going to say, I know that's a lot to take in, Patrick. So stop me whenever you need to.
No. Just I got plenty of questions. Trust me. What service what branch did you serve in?
I was in the Army.
And what do they call it? A DOS?
MOS.
MOS?
I was a cavalry scout, which is basically like small team reconnaissance forces.
Yeah. Wow. I know what your job is. That's a tough one.
Yeah. So for the actual MOSs out there, it's 19 Delta. So.
Were you first Cav?
I never had a chance to be in first Cav. I was actually in Custer's Custer's unit, 4-7 Cav, and we deployed with Second ID, which stands for Second Infantry Division. For those of you guys who don't know military talk, so.
That was, how long did you serve for? For 4 years or?
Yeah, just 4 years. Just my initial contract. Within that 4 years, I had met my wife, and we got married, and she kind of quickly decided the military spouse life was not for her. And then I had several injuries that crept up on me, and I wasn't really able to do my job as a Cav Scout anymore. And since we were in such high demand at the time, they wouldn't allow me to reclass. So it was either get out, get med boarded, But either way, like your career's done. And so, yeah, so because of the wife not really liking the military spouse life, because it is very hard when your loved ones are gone, 12 or 14 hours a day, and then, plus deployments can kind of creep up on you. And then with my injuries and having two knee surgeries when I was in, and then looking at a dual knee replacement, just wasn't in the cards for me. So as much as I miss the camaraderie every day and still love my brothers in arms that are still serving, it's just something that I had to bow out of. So
No, I don't blame you. Did you get deployed overseas?
yeah, I spent over a year overseas.
Yeah. I won't ask any more than that because I know what your job was, and it's extremely sensitive. So,
I
yeah.
wouldn't say sensitive, but yeah, it's. I'll admit something to you very quickly, which a lot of I feel like veterans don't do. Is when I first got out of the military, I kind of used it as a crutch to basically be an asshole, if you will. I used to kind of do the whole I'm going to get drunk because I am depressed and my life's not where it should be. And I kind of just had that mentality of like, well, I'm allowed to do this because I served and blah, 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 blah. And so very quickly, I realized that that's not how I should be acting or conducting myself. And so I try to tend to put my military career behind me and just kind of go, that was one chapter of my life. You're doing something different now. So yeah, if people ask, like I have no problem answering, but yeah, it's not something I necessarily want to be known for anymore. So
Sure. So you got out of the army. I mean, and now you come out. Now you're going to school, and you're learning how to, you be a musician. You're also very creative. Um, so in your military, you took your GI Bill. You went to school with that. What were some of the things that were? Did you have? I mean, what kind of what actually led you there? Because you mentioned, like you were playing army and stuff like that, and that's imagination. Most people's imaginations are developed through reading, or but you didn't really read that much. So where do you think your imagination developed from? Was it stuff that you watched on TV? Was it stuff that did people tell you stories?
combination of both. Like the military has always been like a big chunk in my life. I mean, my dad's a World War, or not a World War II, a Vietnam veteran. My grandpa was a World War II veteran. Most of my family were either World War II or Vietnam veterans. So you would hear stories from them. And then my dad was like the type of guy who I very vividly remember this moment. When Saving Private Ryan came out for rental, he went to Blockbuster and got it. Yeah, Blockbuster was still around for those of you who remember that.
What's a
Um,
blockbuster?
yeah, right. And I remember my mom had to go to like a work function, and she knew my dad had rented it, and she was just like, "Do not let him watch this movie." And my dad's like, "I know, I know, I know." So she pulls out of the driveway, and my dad's kind of looking out the window. He's like, "Hey, you want to watch the movie?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." So I grew up watching, war films with my dad, westerns. I'm sure you saw a lot of that when you watched "You Should Have Killed Me." There's a lot of like western themes in there, and
Yeah.
kind of nostalgia for me growing up with my dad. But yeah, watching movies. I also grew up during the best time in cinema history during the '90s. I was born in '90s, so I mean, like I was thick into it with some of the like the basically arguably the best decade for cinema is my childhood. So yeah, I never did a lot of reading. Like I would watch a movie, and then like when I'd go out and play with my friends, we would just kind of reenact the movie the way we saw it. It was like, I want to be this character. Well, you be this character, and then we'll do this, and then so yeah. I do need to get better about reading, like I said, but yeah, most of uh, my creative side and like my imagination really stemmed from just watching movies and then reenacting it with my friends or whatever it may be.
Now, did you learn how to screenwrite while you were in college, or did you pick that up? That's actually a probably probably a skill you probably did pick up either in college or did you pick that up in college, writing, high school, or the army?
I
You're gonna write a
started,
lot there too.
yeah, I started writing in high school. That was the first time I ever had any kind of teacher tell me like, "Hey, you're actually pretty good at writing." But like I said, anything with like any kind of parameters or formulas, it's like, well, instead of a narrative essay, you have to write me like an informative essay. Like I just failed miserably. Um, but no, I really, so it's kind of a long story. I won't get into it. So the professor that I was supposed to have to teach me screenplay writing, let's just say, was very politically charged, and every class period became just basically a soapbox session for him to just rant about what he thought was
Yeah, I had one of those.
the problem with the world. And so I only really had like two assignments that entire class, and we didn't even get to screenplay writing, which was very unfortunate for someone like me who actually wanted to pursue that.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of the screenplays that I've written was just through trial and error. I talked about my first short film ever that was around 40 minutes that I met Rob Merritt through, and like I literally just wrote that in like Microsoft Word, had no idea about formatting and like the structure of things. And then I think it was about the next script after that, after a few lessons from industry professionals and just feedback, that I downloaded Celtics, which is what I use for all my screenplays now. And it kind of more or less like forces you to be in the correct format. And yeah, I've just been, I'm 33 years old, but I'm nowhere near done learning anything about my craft. Like I guarantee if I live until 83, I'll say the same thing. Like I'm always learning something new about filmmaking, and that's
Any
my, that's
any
my goal ultimately. So
any true creator will say the same thing. I recently read an article, a little interview they did with Harry Hamlin. Harry Hamlin's like 71, 72, and he goes to acting class once a week. And he says, I always go because I'm always learning. I need to learn. There's always out there something to learn, and that stuck with me. Like, that guy's had a hell of a career, and yet there he goes every week. He heads out to acting class as a student, not a teacher. He goes to class.
mhm.
Um, so I get that. Um, yeah, that's too bad about the teacher, but at least she didn't discourage you.
Oh,
Um,
no. I
now,
mean, I'm so motivated the way it is. Like, I mean, no one at this point is going to deter me from doing what I want to do. Um, and that's part of the fun. I mean, the part of the fun of, any goal, like whether your goal is just to, become a manager at your job, or to, start your own company, or to just be employee of the month. Like, as long as you have that drive, I mean, that can motivate you for the entire day. And, yeah, I mean, nothing's going to really deter me from trying to achieve what I want to achieve. So, and it's even gotten worse now that I have kids, because now it's like, well, I want to show my kids that with hard work and dedication, you can make your dreams come true, and there is, the sky is the limit. And so if I were to try to, if I were to give up now or something like that, I would just feel like such a failure as like a father. And so, yeah, I'm definitely motivated by them, and then, also ambitious myself. So,
sure. Um, now, were you in college when and you don't work just you work for a TV station?
yeah, I'm actually there now. So, I mean, yeah, you can see some of the gimbals behind me and things like that. I work for an NBC affiliated news station as their commercial videographer. So basically, all of the commercials that we broadcast throughout the day are created and edited and shot by me and my coworkers. So
So all the local bumps, you mean?
yeah, so not quite necessarily the dream job. Obviously, if Netflix hit me up and we're like, hey, we'd like you to direct a Netflix original, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it. But I mean, it's in the same vein. as far as what I want to do. I'm shooting, I'm editing, I'm getting to be creative, and even though it's just 30 second to 1 minute commercials, it's still I still learn things. I still um, get reintegrated with new gear that I haven't used before, things like that. So it's always just improving that skill set and things like that. So.
Does that job lead you has that job does it open the doors as far as you finding used gear? Like, do you have any of your own equipment that you've gotten?
Yeah, actually, all of I actually kind of almost redesigned the entire commercial program here at KWWL. Because when I first got hired here, I started in marketing, which is just kind of like in-house promotions. I was making commercials, but it was making commercials specifically advertising something for the news station. And then when my predecessor left and I took his job, um, I was using, basically like a Ronin S gimbal. And then I have a Sony A7 III, and they were using, like a Canon C100 with like those great big massive Ronin gimbals that take 20 minutes to set up, and the batteries die in like 10 minutes. And everything was just very outdated. And they kind of saw my personal setup, and I told them, like, I'm going to use my personal gear because the gear you have here is way too complicated. Not necessarily to figure out, like, I know how to use a C100 and stuff, but it was just like I would much rather just put my camera on my gimbal and shoot and spend 30 seconds doing that than having like a 20-minute setup time. And so actually they ended up just buying like two cameras that are mine. They, are planning on getting two A7 IIIs, and then they bought one gimbal so far, which is like mine, and then they're planning on getting two more. So even just based off my gear and like, the work I was doing with it, they were like, yeah, we need to catch up with technology and get better stuff. So yeah, KWWL has been very accommodating with making our lives easier. So I appreciate that for sure.
What was the reaction like when they found out you're a rising filmmaker, that you wanted to make movies?
Um, well, obviously they're trying their best to keep me around, which is good. I definitely
Sure.
appreciate the pay bumps every year. Um, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm perfectly fine. Like, I mean, the whole like slight fame and notoriety thing is still all brand new to me. Um, I've been recognized several times by various people throughout the local area, which is always kind of startling at first because you're like, wait, are you talking to me, kind of thing.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, they mostly care that I do the work at hand. And like I said, with me being ambitious, even though I'm a commercial videographer right now, I look at every commercial I do like it could possibly be on my director reel or resume someday. And so I try to make the best commercials I can. And like I was nominated for my first Emmy last year. We have three commercials that could possibly get an Emmy nomination, if not a win this year. So really, we try to keep the standards high, even though we're just shooting, commercials for like Bob's Cars or whatever it may be. We try to do the best job that we can do. So yeah, they're definitely happy with my work, but I mean, honestly, I think they could care less whether or not I become a famous filmmaker or not, as long as the job's
um,
getting done. So.
I think that would change if that did happen. Chadwick is mentioning that he always gets, because he's getting well known now. He says, "I always get, I got an idea, or can I be in your movies?" Do you get a lot of that? Have you and your wife ever been at dinner and saw, or somebody walked up there and says, "I have a script for you"?
Not my wife particularly. My wife did come to an autograph signing that I had recently for a big event called Irish Fest in Waterloo, Iowa. It's like a 3-day event. There's like 50,000 plus people that come to it every year. And Jamison's is the Irish pub that the fight scene is in, and You Should Have Killed Me. And that's kind of like a benchmark location for Irish Fest here in Waterloo. And they wanted to promote and then also advertise that a Irish American director, shot a few length film in the Irish pub and was going to be there for the autograph signing. And she came to that, but like most of the time, it happens very strangely. The only time I can remember was like I was at Village Inn with a friend of mine, and this waitress came up, and she just goes, "Hey, you're Michael Minard, right?" And I was like, "Yes." And she was like, I follow your YouTube channel, like where you post your short films." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Cool." I was like, "Thanks." And she was just like, "Yeah, I'm really excited to see your feature length film." And I was like, "Oh, well, thank you." And like that was kind of it. Like I kind of feel bad that I didn't ask her, how she found me, or if I knew like maybe an older brother or sister, because she was probably 18 years old, 19 years old, very young. But it was just like it's just weird, random things like that, like people that you don't expect to know who you are. Generally, the ones it's like, "Hey, you're that guy that's making a movie," and you're like, "Yes." And yeah, it's kind of weird every time it happens. I've always kind of joked around saying that I would much rather be that guy that is working full time, maybe making Netflix, um, you know, movies directly for them. That when you watch a movie, you're like, "That was a good movie. I wonder who did it." And then you see my
Right.
name at the end, and you're like, "Who the fuck is that?" I'm okay with being that guy. I don't need to be like a household name. I'm completely okay with just as long as I'm a full time working director. Like I don't care about the notoriety at all.
Uh, well, I think you have a chance to get that notoriety because it is a very interesting film. And my question to you is next is what city did you film it in? I mean, was that Iowa City or is that Waterloo? Where did you
That
film?
was that was Waterloo, where I'm currently living. We did do a couple of scenes in Cedar Rapids, where a big portion of the cast and crew is from, just to make their lives a little easier. But for the most part, all those drone shots, all the locations, Jameson's is in Waterloo. The diner scene at the end with Ducky and Kevin, and when Jeeves is introduced, is at Newton's Diner, which is like 2 blocks down the street from Jameson's. The Rudy's Tacos sequence when they're at the Lava Lounge, when Monty first approaches Sully and finally catches up with him in person.
Right.
Um, that is
A big
that
restaurant.
that is at Rudy's Tacos, and I'm not even joking about this. In the script, there's that scene, where Monty's talking to Ducky and Kevin about Rudy's Tacos. And he's like, "The taco joint?" And they're like, "Yeah, shit's pretty good, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, it is." And then Kevin's like, "Yeah, I love their Yellowbird sauce, Yellowbird for life." That is a real location. I've been going there since I was a kid. It's been there since the 70s. And it very quickly throws you back in time. Like it looks like a Tarantino film set or like something from Dusk Till Dawn, and I absolutely love it. And literally right above my workstation, I have the Yellowbird for Life sauce right here that is
Oh my
made
God.
in the script. So
Um, Speaking of Tarantino, I mean, the one that I was going to ask you, were Guy Ritchie and Tarantino were they big influences on you, or did it go back further? Because when I watched the movie, that's the first two I thought about right away. I was watching. It had the vibe of Kill Bill in it, and then it also had a lot of the Guy Ritchie, the English gangster movies. Were you a big fan of those movies when you were on when you were younger?
yeah,
Or
well, I mean, Tarantino's always been like a big inspiration for me, and I mean, generally, he's a big inspiration for lots and lots of filmmakers. I mean, obviously, he's redefined and is a part of our pulp culture, pretty significantly. Guy Ritchie is another one of my favorites. Another director is Troy McDuffie, who did Boondock Saints. I had a lot of influence from him with just the banter between characters and Not so much the second one. Yes, I do like the second one, but the first one is absolutely brilliant when it comes to the dialogue. And but yeah, all of those kind of crime, kind of just banter, kind of funny but kind of dark. Yeah, all of those directors have always been big influences of mine. Tarantino, Guy Ritchie, like you said, Troy McDuffie, like you said, Martin Scorsese, any kind of guy that, obviously the Goodfellas is another one of my favorite movies, but yeah, any of those filmmakers are kind of like my inspirations. But ironically enough, my favorite film of all time was not directed by any of them. So,
and what film was your favorite one of all time?
So far, the number one spot goes to Children of Men, which is an Alfonso Cuarón film.
Okay. Yep. That's the one with Clive Owen and Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. Michael plays Jasper. What is his name? Michael Caine. Yeah.
I have not seen that for a while, but I know which one. Yeah.
I love it. Everything about it's perfect.
Now you said you found your cast in all local guys. So let's talk a little bit about that, because your cast is fire.
Yeah.
Your cast makes this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about them. I want to show them a spotlight on them, because everybody that she cast, like I said, I mean, even the one that was supposed to be the most despicable, he came across as not being all that bad of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like more like a wannabe gangster than he was like a ball buster. Unlike Raymond.
Yes.
Raymond was the real deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, Raymond kind of has the last laugh, if you will. We won't give too much away, but
no.
Yeah, everyone. So when I did my casting, generally the way I cast my films is I kind of call them Michael alumni. So anyone who's previously worked for me or worked with me, I kind of just refer to as like Michael alumni. And so what I do is, if I have a script idea, whether it be a short film or feature-length film, a lot of times I'll write my characters with them specifically in mind. And so I will approach them and say, hey, would you like to, self-tape a read for me, for this character? And then I generally kind of cast my central characters first. And then any characters remaining, there's a very, very awesome Facebook page in the state of Iowa called Iowa Film. And basically anyone who's in the know in the state of Iowa is a part of Iowa Film. So you can throw up a casting call on there, and within an hour you'll have 30 plus messages being like, I'm intrigued. I want to do it. What do I have to do? That kind of thing.
And the thing that it is, though, Michael, is that the area is so small that you don't have to go through all the bullshit, of contenders from pretenders. I mean, the people are answering you are truly interested, and they truly are actors. I've been in a lot of groups. I will be joining that group after this. I see a lot of those groups in acting groups or what have you, and good Lord Almighty, I mean, it feels like you need like you get going through the sheath, the chaff, I guess, to find the real people who are really interested and have skills. I mean, everybody wants to be an actor, but you see so many like, you're like, I want to be a part of that, or how do I do that, or can anybody put me in a movie? I mean, it's all just bullshit. It's not like no one's serious. So
you'll quickly weed those individuals out. I've had a lot of people ghost me on casting calls, and I just kind of keep a mental note of that. And I'm like, well, next time comes around, like, I'm going to be less interested in what you can do for me because you've already ghosted me on 2 separate casting calls. So, I mean, yeah, there are those people out there. But I mean, for the most part, like you said, the state is so small. So, I mean, there's plenty of actors that I've never worked with before, but I've also seen them in other films from other Iowa filmmakers. And I'm like, hey, he or she was good in that film. I might reach out to her in the future. And it's just, it's one thing I like about Iowa is I kind of, for those comedy fans out there, I kind of equate it to like, what Joe Rogan did for comedians. 20 years ago, every comedian just wanted to see each other fail, and there wasn't really a team effort, and they weren't really trying to help each other. And then in the last 10 years or so, that's changed, and you see comedians supporting each other. That's kind of how Iowa film is we kind of have that firm belief of like rising tides lift all boats. And so call it Iowa nice, call it whatever you want. But for the most part, if you are a legitimate filmmaker that just wants to make art and you want to see the Iowa film scene rise as a whole, generally everyone knows each other already. Generally, we're all, sending jobs to each other, sending actors to each other, making recommendations to each other. And so once you're kind of a part of that statewide group, you at that point you've kind of proved yourself that like, hey, this person's legit. Well, when they say they want to make a film, they're going to make a film and they're going to release it. It's not going to just sit on a shelf for 3 years. And so, yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to have worked with the people that I've worked on all of my films, not even just my feature, You Should Have Killed Me, but every single film I've ever done. I've been lucky to find the best individuals for that role at that time. So,
yeah, we call it the John Wayne, the John Ford effect, I guess, or the Jack Webb. He does the same thing. They did the same thing. In fact, a lot of filmmakers do that. A lot. One thing I've discovered doing this show is a lot of directors do that. They like to get the right people, the same people, and especially for indies. I mean, people think, oh, indie filmmaking is so much fun. You're out there in the wild and all that, and it's like there's a lot of times where you're right. There's people that ghost people. Like you cast them, and then you start the project, and then sometimes there's even been people who've ghosted the project on the next to last day. There's their last scenes that they have to shoot, and then they decide they're going to go off. They're not going to come into work, and the casting and the director's just like, well, screw that. I'll just kill them and I'll just kill the characters and bring in 2 other ones. I mean, he's got to get his movie made. So you're right. I mean, that's probably the one thing you look for in indie movies is dependability, the reliability. I mean, if you show up and you're hard at, if you got skills and you're hard at work, you're gonna get more more opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, it's the trickle down effect. I mean, if you show up to, I mean, there's people I've met that like, just messaged me and they were like, can I just come watch? Can I be a PA? I don't want a job per se. I just want to see if it's for me. And a lot of those people that show up to set, I'll see them running sound for another filmmaker, 6 months later, or, I'll see them, lighting a scene, 6 months later. So there are those people out there that are willing to work and like put in the time. But I've met a lot of people in that Facebook group that are like, I want to audition. And it's like, you'll send them, 2 or 3 pages to do a self-tape on. And they're like, when do you need this? And I'm like, well, I need to make a decision by Friday. So I need it by then. And then it's just nothing. And then you'll never talk to them until you make another casting call. And then the same person's like, I'm interested. Same thing.
You don't even bother answering them. Like, yeah, it's just, no, it's good. You're good. So how did you find your guys? I mean, let's talk with your first guy. Let's talk about Damien, because I'm sure you've already heard this over and over and over. But so when I saw Damien, what's the first? What do you think I'm going to say about Damien? I'm sure you've already known it. I'm sure you've already heard it.
He looks like a badass, and he is a badass.
He looks like David Morse.
Oh, could
He
see
looked
that.
like when I watched that,
I
he
know
looked
in
like
the script we called him a you. What is it? It was Chris Chris Stefani, I think. Yeah, we made a joke about how he looks, but yeah, it was.
yeah, he looks just like a to me, he looks just like David Morse. He comes out there, he's got the same facial features and everything else. And I'm a huge David Morse fan, so I was like a plus for me. Um, but I do want to talk about one thing that did get me about the movie, and maybe explain to me the thinking behind it. So the scene that the scene that just had me, I was like, huh? So there's a key critical moment, like anybody who's watched Kill Bill, the first one, will understand this. So you had a scene where our main hero, he's he gets he gets betrayed. Let's put it that way. He gets betrayed. Um, and I guess that comes from the first title you had, Dead Man Walking. I have a feeling when you told me that story about Dead Man Walking, I had a feeling the original script had Monty not making it out.
Uh, yes and no. We went back and forth. So
Because I was thinking he's gonna do what he needs to do, and then he's gonna, like, because he's hurt, and then he's gonna, at the end of it, he's just gonna do what he needs to do, and then he's gonna go quietly sit down and and
yeah, I
but
mean, because the script was also, I kind of forgot to mention this movie, but it was also kind of influenced by the movie Crank, where he's kind of on a time frame. There's some times where like everything kind of slows down and you can kind of hear his heartbeat. He kind of looks kind of disgruntled, and you're kind of led to believe like, hey, that bullet being in his head is still causing some damage, and we don't necessarily know how much time he has left. So yeah, we kind of went back and forth on the ending. Yeah, what was your ha moment, real quick?
my moment was after he gets basically gets shot point blank.
Mhm.
But then he later on he jumps up there and he's like, I've been shot, and then he's like, but he's like, but nothing seemed to happen. I'm expecting that guy to be like, just, I mean, I don't expect that guy to be on his feet. Um, so I mean, I was wondering if it was just, did Monty think that's what happened to him? Was he undergoing, because obviously he couldn't have took that in his head at that range and walked away. But did he think that happened? Because I was trying to figure out the stories, and like why is he on his feet? Because that's a miracle.
Yeah, my sister, who is a doctor, watched this film and she was just like, that's really kind of medically not possible. And I'm just like, movie magic. But no, so when he first wakes up, you kind of see him looking confused.
Right.
Kind of remembers what's happened. Like, I just was a part of a heist last night. I'm supposed to have money. Kind of goes through the bags and he's like, no, what the fuck? And then when he turns and he sees that coin on the floor, the coin is what jogs his memory of like, oh yeah, I got shot in the face last night,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what starts the film. So
Yeah. I just want to say, for the record, I want to say thank you for Michael's sister for bailing my ass out of that, because I wasn't the only one. Thank
I mean,
God.
I
'Cause I
have
was,
I've seen Stranger Things,
oh, yeah, I'm sure.
with people living with bullet wounds in their heads and in their brains and everything else.
Sure.
Not even army related. I just watched a video the other week about a woman whose boyfriend tried to kill her and she didn't die. And he said that she had gotten a car wreck because she kept having bad headaches, and that was it. And then 3 weeks later, her friend finally took her to the hospital after she was complaining about these terrible migraines. And by the time she got to the hospital, they were like, there is a bullet in your head. And she was like, oh, I didn't even know. So, I
Wow.
mean, like, craziness can happen, but
Yeah. But I
obviously it's
love that.
pretty rare. But
I
it
still
also
love
helps
that.
me with making movies because I can use my movie magic and make kind of
Yeah.
cool things happen. So,
I thought, to me, though, what I really liked about it, and why I'm not nitpicking about it or anything like that, because to me, I thought that was your homage to Tarantino. I love the beginning, I love the end, I love the say opening scene, and I really love the dialogue that you have Monty saying. Can I be honest with you about that? That's one of the most realist scenes I've seen in a movie like this. Most of the time, you always get, the two protagonists, and they're always barking at each other. Like, well, fuck you this and fuck you that, and but you have Monty really being human. That's exactly what his dialogue is exactly what I would expect anybody in that situation would be saying. But you never see it in a movie like that. You always get that macho bullshit, and I thought it was really humane that you didn't do that. The dialogue feels really real. It's not puffed up. It's not you know pulp pulp magazine. It's not noir. It's more realistic. I mean, what they're saying to each other is really what you expect them to talk about. And
Yeah, and honestly, all of the dialogue is really kind of inspired by just like how I talk to my friends, and then like how I used to talk to my fellow friends in the army, bullshitting with them. So I mean, a lot of that dialogue, I can't remember where I heard it from. I'm sure some of the filmmakers in the comments, if they're still watching, might know. But I've heard about, basically what you should do with writing screenplays is you always want to write about what you know. One of the valuable lessons, that you can get is you never want to write a character that's smarter than you because they're not going to appear smarter than you, or, you want to write a screenplay that you can accomplish. So like I'm never going to write like a Marvel movie because I know I don't have the budget for a Marvel movie. I'm going to write something that I know I can personally do. And that's just kind of where my dialogue comes in too, is like, I'll have conversation with friends. And one of them will say something that makes me laugh. And I'm like, hey, I might use that for a script. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you today. And I promise you, it might make me sound like an asshole, but I'm not trying to make it sound like an asshole. And the conversation was between me and my coworker was not us being assholes. I promise you. Okay. So after a commercial that we shot today, we went to a diner to get lunch, and there was a very handsome man that my coworker pointed out. And he's like, gosh, he's like, man, that dude is like super handsome. But he goes, I actually think he might be like a little, like mentally challenged, or he might be like slightly disabled. Like, I can't really tell. And I kind of turned around and I saw the guy he was talking about. And I was like, yeah, that is like a very like handsome dude. Like he's a very handsome guy. He just like he just didn't quite seem like he was all mentally there. So we're kind of watching this guy and like we're trying to figure it out. Finally, he kind of like gives up and he's like, well, maybe he's not like mentally challenged or disabled or anything. And then like literally at that time, we both like looked and turned at him, and we just see this guy stare at a group of people and like start growling and like gnashing his teeth. Like he was just like, and we were just like, oh, and like, I fucking just started dying laughing. And not at the guy, not at the guy that obviously had mental issues, but at Tyler's face, because as soon as I saw that guy do that, I immediately beelined back for my coworker, and he was just like, and that is what cracked me up. And it's just like moments like those where I was like, you could not have timed that line perfectly with what we both witnessed. Like, well, maybe he's not that disabled. And then we both look and he starts growling at people. It was just comedic gold. And I think I even made the joke where I was like, I have to put this in a movie at some point or something, because that was like perfect fucking timing. So it's moments like that, it's like when I bullshit with my friends, like we'll say super dumb stuff to each other that sometimes will end up making the script. I don't know if you can tell, I'm sure you can slightly, but I'm not religious at all. And no offense to anyone that is, it's just not for me. Right. I grew up, if you will. But how this whole film started, even with the proof of concept, is my dad actually bought me that Jesus coin that you see in the film.
Right.
And it was his joke of saying, you need more Jesus in your life. And so I was like, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use it in a way that you don't approve of just because you thought it was funny to buy me this coin. So the first scene that I actually wrote originally for the proof of concept and for this film was when Sully shoots Monty in the face at the very beginning, because I liked the idea of like a coin flip. I liked the idea of like the dialogue kind of being like a true romance when Christopher Walken is like, interrogating Dennis Hopper. I kind of liked that vibe. And once I had written that scene, then it was just kind of like, well, how did Monty get here? Well, what happens after? Well, what happens after this? And that's just kind of how the script took off. But originally, that first scene happened was because my dad played a joke on me, and I was like, well, now I'm going to use this in a way you disapprove of, and that's how that whole scene happened. So
It worked perfectly. It worked perfectly. Now, did your cast know each other before you got them together?
yeah, a
Or
lot
did
of them had worked together before. And like you said, and like I've pointed out, like the talent pool in the state, like it is very, very impressive. Um, but it also is very small. Um, and so generally, if you're a full-time working filmmaker or actor of any kind of person in the filmmaking community, odds are you're going to have worked with each other at some point.
that's not, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I thought, I do really. Hi V, how are you? Our friend V saying hi to you.
Oh, hello,
Uh,
Pete.
can you see the chat room? Okay.
I don't actually think I can. Do I just click comments? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. I've been blind this whole time. I feel like
Oh,
I'm part of a whole new world now.
I can already tell you that you're already going to get some people already following you on your Instagram page. I can already tell you that. And I'll
If you
put
guys,
down your
really want to help me out, if you guys can go to YouTube and
yes.
just look for Red Arc Productions.
I saw
That's
you.
where all of the previous short films I've ever done have been released. Anything that's not, picked up by a distribution company or something like that goes there. So that's where you can kind of really follow me and see what's going on. So yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yes, they will all follow you there. I followed you there this afternoon, as a matter of fact, and I will add that to your description box below. I will add that because so far I put down your Instagram page and your IMDb page, but
Very cool.
I will put their Red Arc down as well. And yeah, I reviewed the movie as well, but that's going to come out in a couple of days. Um, yeah, I don't like people seeing my reviews till after I get the interview done.
Yeah, and I don't know if I have
It's a
any
it's a
Iowa
pain it's
film
a
people
painful.
here. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know what though? Like I said, I have interviews from a
Yeah.
filmmaker from Iowa,
But
so I will.
I don't know if I have any Iowa film people here. But if you haven't yet, please go ahead and give Patrick's YouTube channel that you're watching now a like as well. Make sure to support him.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
I know Bayview talked very highly of you, and I was very excited to come on today. So,
Oh, Peter. Okay, Peter. Yeah, Peter's he's aces. Peter's
mhm.
a really great guy. I really enjoy working with him. And when he pinged me and he says, "Hey, I got something for you," because see, I do more than just review the movies. I also do the interviews too. I'm always looking for people to talk to. So if you have a story, come on up. Um,
Right.
so I'm grateful for them. And Bayview put us up. They put out some amazing films. They really
Oh
do.
yeah, absolutely.
Now,
Real question. I guess I have a question for you, real quick, Patrick, too, since you were talking about the one scene that you're kind of confused about. Mostly because I'm in the process of, like I said, always trying to improve, get better. Do you have any recommendations for me after watching the film that you would kind of say
uh,
as part of an expertise in the field?
uh, as far as the movie itself,
Hmm?
man, you know what? Your casting spot on. I seriously would consider this. I really would love to see the two stoners and Jeeves together in another movie. I'm not a big sequel guy, and I know how hard it is for indies to get sequels done. But good lord, even if it was just a short film, I would love to see. I would love to see Ducky and Kevin again.
Yeah,
Those are really
I
great.
don't want to get your hopes up, but I do have an idea for like an origin film on how Kevin and Ducky met.
Yeah,
So I do have an idea for that. I don't necessarily know if it's going to happen, but I not to get your hopes up. There's
I
a sliver of hope there. So
there's so many memorable characters. Yes, that's what really. I really want to emphasize this for people for about this is that your characters are all fire. There's not just one or two. Everybody in that movie is popping. Even the guys who's just even Sully's henchman. He was an interesting character. He was a really cool guy. He was just sitting there and watching him and Sully walking and talking. Um, One other thing your cast does too. Your cast smokes a hell of a lot. Was that part of the story? Like we want you to smoke a lot, or that's just them just finding their characters?
no, that's just because we're all depressed because we live in Iowa. No, I'm just kidding. Um, no, a lot of us just smoke, myself included. Um, I will say one thing about those characters because you labeled several people that I don't want to blow your mind. They're actually not actors, and a lot of people don't know this, but some of those characters, this was their first time ever acting. What I did, and actually Damien, who played the lead, came up with it. And I know I had mentioned that he looks like a badass and is a badass earlier. Damien is like an ex MMA fighter from New Jersey. Um, excuse me, Damien is going to kill me if I say that. He is from New York. The joke is that I tell him he's from Jersey and it makes him mad. So he is from New York.
Jersey, you say?
But he's like an MMA fighter. I think he's got a brown or black belt in jiu-jitsu, and that's kind of what he does full time besides some other stuff. So when it came down to choreographing that fight scene, he had asked me before we started shooting. He goes, "Do you have anyone in mind for playing like the henchman and stuff?" I was like, "No, I haven't even thought about it." And so he asked a bunch of people from his jiu-jitsu gym if they would be willing to act in a movie. And the people that you see in the movie are the ones that said they would be willing to do it. So I like to jokingly say that instead of finding actors and teaching them how to fight, I found fighters and taught them how to act.
I
And
think
so that's why
it's
when you see those characters, like they all have cauliflower ear. They all have like cuts and scrapes and scars and dings and everything else. It's because those dudes legit fight for a living. That's what they do. And yeah, they absolutely killed it. One of the guys I was very impressed with was Keone, who plays Turk. And he's got longer hair and like a ponytail most of the time. But like he came swinging out of the gates, never been in front of a camera in his entire life, and just absolutely took over the scene sometimes. And I was like, holy crap, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah.
So
Where did you find the guy who played Raymond?
Patrick is a very prolific actor in the area now. He technically always has been, but if I remember his story, because he told me at one time, so this is kind of just my memory at this point. He's been a stage actor for basically like 40 plus years, I think. Just basically doing plays and theater stuff full time. And then within like the last 3 or 4 years, was like, I'll give film a shot and just see how I like it, see what happens. And he was in 1 or 2 movies previous to mine and just absolutely killed it. And so, yeah, when I was picturing Jeeves, the director of photography for You Should Have Killed Me, Michael Huntington, had been the director of photography for another film and recommended I give Patrick a shot. I fell in love with Patrick. I've used him ever since. And yeah, he's great.
He's sensational. He's sensational. I noticed on your short films, you start your short films, Hollow Walls, All Row Ends, and Closing Shop. If I'm not mistaken, are those all 3 horror films?
Closing Shop is actually, I brought up my coworker quite a bit who sits behind me when he's in the office. That was his directorial debut. We both went to the same film program and at the same college, and he graduated like a year or two before me. Um, and then we ended up working here. And when I started here, was the same summer or when I started in commercial for marketing, was the same summer I was shooting my feature. And so we were talking about movies and everything like that. And he had mentioned he had never made a film yet. And I was like, well, that can't be, that's got to get corrected immediately. That can't stand. And so I actually wrote the script for Closing Shop. He kind of put some final points on it, but then that was actually his directorial debut. And now, actually, for the next feature length film that I'm doing, we're actually going to do it together. And we're going to pull like a Coen brothers or Russo brothers, and we're actually going to co direct our next feature length film called Dissonance. Which is very much similar to You Should Have Killed Me. It's kind of in that crime world. But we like to compare it to, think of Reservoir Dogs meets Knives Out.
Okay.
So it is a crime-driven murder mystery whodunit kind of film.
We have a question from someone who I've never seen before, but he asked a really interesting question. Taser and Avakin. It says, where do you write and send a written script to, to a producer? I think there's two ways of looking at it. There's the solicited script and there's unsolicited. So what's the best way for someone who has a script written? What is the best way for them to get it to the hands of a production company? Let's say Red Art Productions. How would someone get their script to you? Do you only take solicited scripts, or do you accept unsolicited?
I mean, I'll select anything that tells a good story. Now, with that being said, I write and direct all of my own films. I have only done one short film for a script that wasn't written by me once, and that's it. And that was actually for a music bed challenge, which happens annually. So I might be the wrong guy to send it to. On a professional level, if you're a good screenplay writer and your scripts are decent, I would suggest signing up for Inktip is what it's called, inktip.com. It's very similar to Film Freeway, but it's basically catered to screenplay writers. So basically what you do is you create an account just like Film Freeway. You upload your scripts just like you would your films in Film Freeway. And then basically you pitch your scripts to production companies that basically put out casting calls, almost basically. They'll put out basically a call that's like, I want to make an action adventure movie, looking for a script somewhere between 90 to 120 pages. This is our budget. Is there anybody that qualifies? And then what you can do is you can click on that link, click a button that says pitch, and then you can send them an appropriate pitch to that production company. But it's all done through inktip.com.
Okay. I hope that helps. I know that a lot of people, I know from working in music, a lot of people would send unsolicited press kits all the time, and it's just like you get sort of over insinuated. I know when it comes down to scripts, I know a lot of people do not like unsolicited scripts because of the copyright questions.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind too, like I said, I don't like to read. I'm probably the worst guy to send a script to. I don't even like to read my own scripts. Luckily, Celtics, the program I used to write my screenplays on, has a read back button where I can program different voices for different characters, hit play, and then it reads me my script. I don't even read my own scripts.
So what's next for you, Michael? What do you? I mean, I know the movies. What is the film getting this release? Did Bayview give you a date of it being released?
So the worldwide Blu-ray release happens August 29th. So about 5 days from now.
Okay.
I'm sure you can order it. Like I said, this is my first distribution company on my first ever feature-length film. So I'm not 100% sure on how Peter plans to go about it, but the Blu-ray will be available worldwide on August 29th. And then he basically said 30 to 60 days afterwards is where you'll start seeing it on streaming platforms. I know IndieBox has already approved it. I know Tubi has already approved it. And so I think we're just kind of waiting to hear back from some of the others. Maybe we'll see it on Netflix. I don't know. Could be cool, but yeah, we'll see.
Did you get a copy of the Blu-ray yet?
I have not. Peter doesn't like me. I'm kidding.
Well, that's why I was asked. That's actually a pretty serious question because I can't tell you how many directors I've talked to, and I've sat there and said, "Yeah, I really enjoyed your movie. You know, I really enjoyed your movie. It's great." And the director will be looking at me going like, hey, "Can you show that again? Can you show that again?" "Oh, sure, yeah." I haven't got one yet. It's like what? What's on the Blu-ray? Any special features that you can share with us? Did you get to do a director's commentary?
I didn't. If that was something that Peter wanted, I would be more than happy to give it to him. But I think it's probably a little bit too late now because they've already, printed it and gone through quality control. Yeah, like I said, with me being a musician and stuff like that, I have my own recording studio. So, I mean, for all I know, if this movie blows up and maybe we do like a remastered version of it or something, maybe I'll do a director's commentary then. But for any of you BTS fans out there that want to, and I don't mean the Korean K-pop band, I actually mean behind the scenes, fans out there that want to check it out. If you also go to my production company's Facebook page, it's just Red Arc Productions. If you scroll down, because you got to go back to June of last year, we tried to do daily updates with photos and cell phone videos and things like that without giving too much away. Right. But yeah, most of your behind the scenes knowledge is going to come out of podcasts and things like this. I will fully admit I was never an Instagram person until recently with part of this podcast, and then probably being like, oh, this is something I should probably do if I want to help the marketing process. So you'll have to forgive me. I'm not very active on there. But also, even if you just find me on Facebook, it's just Michael James Minard. At this point, I'm not a cunt because I'm not super famous. So I'll probably add most of you, but
what I'll do is I'll put down your Red Arc Facebook page. I'll put that down as well as your YouTube page. I got your Instagram page as well. And yeah, that's something else you got to get out there. And is this your first press that you've done for this movie, or have you done other press?
No. Like I was telling you, we had the autograph signing at Irish Fest. I've done several podcasts after wrapping up this film, and then we.
Is it getting easier for you to do press? I mean, how does it feel being on the other side of the camera? Because most of the time you're in the newsroom, you're filming, you're making a commercial. How does it feel being on the other side of it, being asked questions?
I mean, I've accepted that I'm a fat, out of shape, ugly slob a long time ago. So, I mean, anytime I see myself on camera, I'm just like, you still look the same that you did at 6:30 this morning, you gross piece of shit. And then I just keep going out with my day.
Listen, Michael, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us. I really do appreciate it. You're a lot of fun to talk to, and thank you for sharing your process behind the film. You should have killed me. I think it's going to do super well for you. I really do. I think it has a real good shot out there. It's something we haven't seen in a while. We haven't seen a gangster movie like this in quite a while. So I think that will be very refreshing for a lot of people. People like those shoot 'em ups and a really sharp dialogue are really also going to really enjoy this film as well. And it has a lot of good fight scenes. It has a lot of there's a lot of positive arcs to it. It's funny. It has a lot of heart to it. You'll definitely I recommend it. I definitely recommend it. It's going to come out on Bayview on the 29th. I cannot wait to see people react to it and start reviewing it. See, Taserin has another comment here. Michael, what is it you're looking for exactly? Seem like It seems like the light. Oh, the lighting. Oh,
Oh yeah,
okay.
the light isn't off my face, to Syrian. I'm just ugly, man. Like I said, just gross. Everything here is just nasty. That's why I'm behind the camera.
Oh,
No, it's just
uh,
the office fluorescent lighting of where I work, man. That's it. Can't help
right,
it.
right.
But
Um,
uh, but yeah, no. One thing I want to say to everyone in here is like I appreciate it. I love seeing all the comments and people supporting Patrick. Like I said, if any of my Iowa film people are here, give Patrick a subscription and a like on his YouTube channel. And then also, I'm a big believer, like I said, in helping young filmmakers. So, I mean, if you're in film school, if you're just a high school student, whatever it may be, I'm not any better than anybody in this chat or anybody around me or anybody I know. If you have a question, feel free, like I said, to reach out, message me on Facebook personally. I would love to answer any questions. I would love to try to help you out and, just grow the filmmaking community as a whole. So do not be afraid to reach out to me. I'm not going to leave you on red or anything like that. I will respond, even if it's the next day or something. So, like I said, you'll just have to forgive me because I have a 2-year-old and like a 3-month-old at home, so I can't always get to you right away. So,
um, thank you again. Thank you so much. Let's see. Uh, I'll put down your Facebook down here, and people can come out and take a look at it. Thank you so much, everybody. We will be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock sharp with film journalist Bobby Lapierre from Film Threat Magazine, and he and I are going to be ranking superhero movies. And that sounds like God, that's going to be one of the most boring things ever. But
well,
you
you can
haven't.
put in a good word for me to him.
I definitely will, but you have not seen a ranking until Bobby Lapierre does a ranking. Let me tell you that. His rankings are absolutely fun to watch. He did it about 10 years ago, had my ass on the floor laughing so hard. So we're gonna do an impromptu one tomorrow, and then we'll come back and do it again. Uh, as far as you and I, we'll stay in touch. I'll probably end up reaching out to Damien. I want to go talk to him.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll
And
I'll give him a heads up just so he knows what he's looking out for.
yeah, yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. Everybody else, thanks again. Stay right where you are for one more minute, Michael. For everybody else, thank you, Chadwick. I appreciate it. We will talk to you guys tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Be safe.